Ladies and gentlemen, this book, Animal Farm by George Orwell, is a classic allegorical novel first published in 1945. It tells the story of a group of farm animals who overthrow their human farmer in hopes of creating a society where animals can be equal, free, and happy. However, the rebellion ultimately leads to dictatorship, illustrating how powers can corrupt ideals. And I was totally flabbergasted after reading this book, and also when I realized how insanely accurate this book was. Orwell was a genius and produced a masterpiece, and it still fits the scenarios of modern society. In fact, in many countries across the world. Here are some of the timeless lessons this book has taught me. What begins as a dream of equality turns into a nightmare of tyranny. In Animal Farm, the pigs start as comrades in revolution but end up as dictators with whips in hand and whiskey on their breath. And it's not just a fiction, this is the reality of unrestrained power. Think of Muammar Gaddafi in Libya. He came into power in 1969 by promising freedom and reform, and then ruled for 42 years with iron fist, silencing any dissent with torture and executions. Another example would be that of Vladimir Putin. So Orwell screams a warning here. When no one holds leaders accountable, they don't just lose the sight of justice, they in fact obliterate it. Boxer, the noble horse in this book, keeps repeating, Napoleon is always right, Napoleon is always right, until he's sent to the slaughterhouse. So loyalty without awareness can be seriously fatal, and this isn't just a tragic animal tale. It's the story of millions of Germans under Hitler, many of whom followed orders blindly by participating in and enabling the Holocaust. This blind allegiance and obedience allowed evil to flourish under the guise of duty and patriotism, and Orwell pleads with us, loyalty must never be louder than conscience. The squaler doesn't need a gun because he has words. Through twisted statistics and emotional manipulation, he convinces the animals that they are thriving while they starve. And this is chillingly familiar. In North Korea, the state media glorifies their supreme leader on daily basis, feeding citizens lies about prosperity while many survive on grass and insects. Propaganda doesn't just spread lies, it creates an alternate reality. And Orwell shows us that the truth is not just a casualty of war, it's in fact the first one. The animals' revolution is glorious, but just for a day. And then it mutates, gets twisted into the very thing that it aimed to destroy. Look at the Arab Spring, for example. Sparked by cries of freedom, it toppled dictators. But in many places like Syria, it spiraled into brutal civil war, and in Egypt, it led back to same military rule. Orwell teaches us that the fall of a tyrant is not the end. It's in fact the beginning of a new test. And the test is whether the revolution can protect its soul. All animals are equal, the pigs promise, but soon add that some animals are more equal than the others. And this is not just a satire, it's in fact history. Like in apartheid South Africa, the constitution promised law and order, but rights were reserved for white people, while black citizens lived as outsiders in their own country. And even today, structural inequalities persist in modern democracies. Orwell exposes the ugly truth that even the most noble ideals can be edited, reworded, and sold back to us in disguise. Most animals in this book cannot read, so they rely on the pigs to interpret everything, including the rules. Sound familiar? In real life as well, low literacy rates in impoverished regions make populations vulnerable to exploitation. In rural areas of some countries where leaders manipulate uneducated communities with fear, fake promises, and emotional appeals during elections, and Orwell makes it abundantly clear. Education isn't just empowerment, it's protection, and ignorance isn't bliss, it's bondage. Animals dream of a utopia with no masters, But dreams are enough. Without checks and balances, that dream morphs into something ugly, like dictatorship wearing a different mask. Think of communist regimes like the Soviet Union. The vision was noble, a classless society, but the result? Gulags, secret police, and millions were dead. And hence, Orwell cautions us that heavens on earth aren't built by slogans, they are built by constant scrutiny, shared power, and a commitment to truth over comfort. Boxer the horse is the symbol of working class in this book, strong, loyal, but silent. He does the hardest work and asks for nothing, but when he is injured and useless, he is sold for money. It's gut-wrenching, and it happens every day in our daily lives. Take example of COVID pandemic. Essential workers kept societies running, while many were underpaid, underprotected, and overexposed. Janitors, drivers, and nurses, they bore the brunt but got the least. Orwell doesn't just write a story, he holds up a mirror to the world's cruelty. The commandments on the barn wall slowly change, but no one notices until it's too late. The subtle manipulation is real. Look at how China has gradually altered its constitution to extend Xi Jinping's rule indefinitely. The rules didn't break all at once. They shifted bit by bit so subtly that resistance never saw it coming. Orwell's message here: dictators don't always arrive with fanfare. Sometimes they slip in through edits, through small lies. In the final scene, the pigs and humans dine together, and the animals can't tell who's who. So the cycle is complete. It's haunting and it's real. After the fall of colonial powers, many post-colonial leaders in Africa and Asia promised reform but became tyrants themselves. Take example of Robert Mugabe of Zimbabwe. He was hailed as a liberator initially, but then ruled with fear for nearly 4 decades. Orwell's chilling prophecy here: when the oppressed become the oppressor and no one remembers the dream, history resets, and so does the suffering. So this is it in this book. My name is Dr. Ruben Singh. For more such lessons, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'm signing off for now. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.